How much you are missing out on tremendous health benefits if you're not using omega-3s on a daily basis. Dr. Rhonda Patrick briefly explains the newest research regarding the health benefits of using premium omega-3 fish oil, such as Looking Vibrant's raw wild anchovy fish oil 1200 milligrams.
Is measuring omega-3 fatty acid levels, the EPA and DHA, and there's other fatty acids as well, but in red blood cell membranes. And it's really important because most of the time when you go and get a omega-3 blood test, the plasma phospholipids are measured, which is better than nothing. But you're really looking more at your dietary intake in the last week or two versus red blood cells, which are 120 days before they turn over. It's a long-term status of your omega-3, kind of like the difference between looking at fasting blood glucose and your HbA1c, right? Like fasting blood, you could have had, you've been intermittent fasting for that day and your fasting blood glucose looks great, but is that a snapshot of what your daily blood glucose levels always look like? Might not be, right? So long-term status, omega-3 index, and there's been a variety of studies from Bill Harris, he's the co-inventor of the omega-3 fatty acid test. I had him on my podcast about a year ago. I've actually joined the Fatty Acid Research Institute, which is a nonprofit institute studying a variety of the roles of fatty acids in human health. I've joined as an associate researcher, and so I'm doing some studies on omega-3 and brain health. But Bill has published a variety of studies looking at omega-3 index and all-cause mortality, cardiovascular related mortality. So I would say when you get the omega-3 index measured, most people in the United States have an omega-3 index of less than 5%. And what Bill has shown from multiple studies is that people that have an omega-3 index of 8% have a 5-year increased life expectancy compared to those that have an omega-3 index of 4%. So 4% versus 8%. There's also evidence that it's related to cardiovascular related mortality as well. But also a very interesting piece of data that Bill published was looking at smokers, and everybody knows smoking is terrible for your health. Like what can you do to accelerate the aging process? Like smoking, right? Smoking, cigarettes, tobacco it's terrible. And this was so interesting. The omega-3 in smokers that had a high omega-3 index, so they were smoking, but they were also eating a lot of fish, supplementing with fish oil. They had an 8% omega-3 index. They had the same life expectancy as non-smokers with a low omega-3 index. In other words, smoking was like being deficient in omega-3. I was blown away by that. Like there's a beautiful graph in the paper. I forgot what journal it was published in. It was a couple of years ago, but I mean, it's just kind of mind blowing. So omega-3 is, there's so many different roles that it plays in the body. It accumulates in cell membranes, plays an important role in the way transporters and receptors function, because all those things are embedded in the cell membrane. And so, for example, glucose transporters at the blood-brain barrier are altered. They're not functioning well when DHA is deficient, and that can cause, less glucose to get into the brain. That obviously leads to many problems. It's also the metabolites of EPA and DHA. They resolve inflammation in a very efficient and timely manner. These are the maricins, the protectins, they're the SPMs, the resolvins. These are playing a very important role in inflammation. And I think there has been now enough evidence that inflammation, chronic low-level inflammation, is a driver of the aging process itself. In other words, not just driving, increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease and dementia and cancer, which it does, but just the process of aging. And so it's affecting all those things. And, inflammaging is a term that's used, which is kind of like it's the activation of the immune system is accelerating the aging process, and it's known as inflammaging. There's neuroinflammation, and there's been like these 7 pillars of aging where you look at all these like physiological processes that are happening, like genomic instability is one, protein misfolding is another, and there's also this neuroinflammation. The only thing that was really overlapping between brain aging and just aging itself was the inflammation. That was the most important thing that was accelerating, everything in the brain and also aging, in the body. So having omega-3 is, I think, one of the easiest things that someone can do to improve their inflammatory process, to improve the structure and function of their transporters and receptors. And I know you're going to ask me some research I'm most excited about. I'll give you a preview of that. I'm also excited about a new role of omega-3 in muscle mass and also sensitizing amino acids in skeletal muscle